Pluribus episode 1 and 2 have just been released on Apple TV, and we get an excellent start to Vince Gilligan's new show, following all the success with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. The series centres on Carol Sturka, a novelist who is mysteriously immune to a virus that sweeps the world, transforming nearly everyone else into unnervingly content, almost hive-minded beings. The show explores what happens when individuality clashes with mass conformity, turning the idea of a perfectly happy world into a kind of dystopia. Carol, as one of the few unaffected, becomes an unwilling person tasked with saving humanity from this forced harmony. The series blends suspense, dark humour, and philosophical questions about freedom, identity, and the cost of collective happiness, all set against Gilligan's signature character-driven storytelling and Albuquerque backdrop. With its mysterious tone and thought-provoking premise, Pluribus offers a unique twist on both the sci-fi and thriller genres. So in this spoiler review and explained analysis, I'm going to be giving you my breakdown of Pluribus episode 1 entitled We Is Us and episode 2 titled Pirate Lady, alongside discussing my general thoughts towards both. Before I get into it though, if you want to see much more on season 1 of Pluribus, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating and subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's dive into my review and breakdown of Pluribus episodes 1 and 2. So the opening of Pluribus episode 1 has us visit a quiet scientific setting. On screen we get the supporting countdown timer reading 439 days, 19 hours, 56 minutes and 8 seconds. After this disappears, we meet astronomers working at a deep space communications facility, picking up a repeating microwave signal coming from 600 light years away, one that pulses every 78 seconds. They determine that the signal isn't just a random noise, but encodes an RNA sequence, which they then convert into DNA and begin animal testing with. Like with the very first shot of the episode, a countdown clock timer appears on screen, showing the days and hours ticking down towards some unspecified event. Following this, we cut to a lab where the animal testing goes sideways. A rat that was presumed dead suddenly revives and bites a researcher through their glove. From there, a cascade begins, and people are infected via saliva, on-site petri dishes, donuts pulled from communal trays, and the situation morphs into a kind of hive mind, contagious scenario. Parallel to the science plot, we then meet our protagonist, Carol Sturka, played by the excellent Rhea Seehorn. She is a successful historical romance novelist who is finishing a book tour for her book The Blood Song of Waikaro. We learn that she's sardonic about her fame and the readership, suggesting that part of her opinions on people are shared with how she appears in comparison to the appearance of the Hive takeover later on. She and her manager and partner Helen arrive back in Albuquerque, again a setting familiar with other Gilligan works, and they stop at a bar for a drink and a smoke. While there, we catch a news ticker on the TV that reports that an airport has shut down. But neither Carol nor Helen see this report, and to them, life still remains mundane. While Karen and Helen are outside having a smoke, Carol notices a pattern in the sky with planes flying in parallel or in odd formations. And at this very same moment, a pickup crashes into a car outside the bar parking lot. Carol runs over to help, and when she does, Helen suddenly collapses over near the bar. In a moment of stress, Carol's phone is smashed, so she attempts to go back inside the bar to find some help. But when she gets inside, she finds out that everyone in there has also had seizures. Emergency services don't even respond, and it's scarily clear that a widespread outbreak is underway. So Carol loads Helen, who is now unconscious, into the bed of the pickup truck and drives towards the nearest hospital. On the way, she sees a crashed police car and the city is on fire in the distance. At the hospital, the staff and patients are also facing seizures, and it's around this moment where Helen unfortunately dies. Her fall back at the bar is what killed her and not the virus. Then we finally get the aftermath of all the seizures. A hive mind of people emerge all around her, and everyone who had seizures rise at the same time in a zombie-like fashion. Carol, though, is weirdly immune. The infected surge rises, calm and in sync, and are eerily polite. Carol watches as a crowd of them outside the hospital confront her, and they all speak in unison. They say, "We just want to help Carol," and one also tries to kiss her, as this is how the contagion spreads. Carol again doesn't change, and she escapes the whole situation. She brings Helen's body back to her house and notices her neighbours and even total strangers stepping aside in a coordinated gesture, as if the entire block acknowledges her at once. This brings us to the ending of episode 1, and it's here where Carol begins to get a few answers to what's truly going on. Inside her home, Carol turns on the TV and none of the channels work. But one channel does flick on, making Carol feel like she finally can get some information. On screen though is a man played by Davis Tafler, and he is on a White House style podium. Alongside this, the ticker on screen is directed solely at Carol, making her quickly realise that nothing on this news channel seems right. The man at the podium invites her to call the displayed number on screen, and when Carol does this, he begins to talk to her from the broadcast on the TV. He explains that a signal from space triggered a virus contagion that merged nearly all humanity into a single hive mind called the Collective, and Carol is one of the few, roughly around 11 in the world, who weren't joined. He says that Helen's death was incidental, not from the force overwhelming her, but from the force she suffered. And he tells Carol that they want her to join them and that they're protecting her until they can figure out how to bring her in. So Carol is completely shocked as the whole world has changed beyond recognition. A shot lingers on her face, then on the emptiness in her home, and then on the quiet outside. Everything familiar has collapsed, and the show sets up a bunch of questions going into episode 2. What is this hive mind? Why is Carol immune? And what will she do? The ending cements its open-ended nature, as the final shot of it displays the on-screen timer now counting up. This brings us onto episode 2 of the show, titled Pirate Lady, where we begin to get some introductions to some other big characters and a more expansive set of events. The episode opens far away from our protagonist's usual setting. During the cold open, we find ourselves in a chaotic urban war zone in the Middle East. Vehicles are overturned, fires burn, and bodies lie exposed. A woman in rough robes strides through the wreckage as if she's accustomed to it. She hauls a badly charred corpse out of a wrecked car, carries it uphill, adds it to a growing pile of bodies, then hops on a moped, rides to the airport, and boards a cargo plane which flies to Albuquerque. This sequence broadens the scope of what we know, in that the transformation of joining them is global and organised, with people having been changed far from North America. It emphasises the scale and severity of the event in comparison to Gilligan's other shows. After getting a creepy yet cool new title sequence, we then cut back to Albuquerque with Carol. Just like in the Middle East, cleanup crews sweep through the wreckage, chaos is being erased, and everywhere the hive-like order is taking shape. People who are just ordinary humans are now performing tasks and synchronizing in ways that are almost inhuman. Carol wakes up next to the body of her partner, physically hurting and emotionally damaged after her experience the previous night. It is now apparently 11 hours and 26 minutes since the world becoming a collective whole. And the contrast is stark in that while everyone else has settled into peace as a group with a hive mind, Carol sits outside of that peace, dealing with loss and confusion. Grieving Helen's death, she gently wraps her body in an old blanket and begins to dig a grave in the backyard. The work is exhausting as the ground is packed with rock, the sun's heat is excruciating, and she's been digging for many hours. But Carol keeps going, unaware that a military drone miles above her is monitoring her every move. As she nears collapse from the heat, a woman approaches her backyard with a bottle of water, and instead of drinking it, Carol defiantly pours it out on the grass in front of her to make a point. She then notices something uncanny. The visitor, who introduces herself as Zosia, looks almost exactly like Raban, one of the characters from her own novels, only reimagined as a woman. It's revealed to Carol that Helen, before her mind joined the hive mind, had shared parts of Carol's creative work with the collective, meaning Carol's fictional creations have literally come to life within it. When Carol lashes out at Zosia in response to this, screaming in the street, Zosia then suddenly collapses, and so do others across the now joined world. It appears that her emotional outburst seems to disrupt the hive's harmony, momentarily freezing everyone connected to it. The horrifying consequence, as we learn, however, is that millions die as this network falters. So after Carol learns this, she's overwhelmed by guilt and nausea. Later on, the collective airlifts a small excavator into her yard so that she can finish the burial. Zosia returns and tells Carol that another person has now woken up, a man in Paraguay, meaning Carol isn't the only one left outside the hive's influence. Determined to find others like her, she agrees to travel to a meeting in Bilbao. True to her stubborn, cynical nature, she boards an otherwise empty plane and chooses a seat way back in economy, proving once again that she may indeed be the most miserable person on Earth. You may not know this already, but there's a cool Easter egg in this scene in that the plane company Wayfarer is the same one from Breaking Bad, where Walter was responsible for the plane crash that involved Jane's dad. Anyway, 2 days and 2 hours after the collective has taken control of humanity, Carol arrives at the airport to meet the only other unjoined people who can speak English. The atmosphere is tense and uneasy. Among the group are Z May, Kusameu, Laxmi, and Okgombeya, each accompanied by loved ones who are still a part of the hive mind. The fifth person is Koumba, a man who makes a grand entrance aboard the president's private jet, clearly enjoying the luxury and attention he's getting, surrounded by women and comfort. And it appears as though Carol stands apart from all of them. While most of them seem oddly at peace or even accepting of the New World Order, she's restless and determined to resist. She eventually calls a private meeting aboard the president's plane for those who remain unjoined, hoping to rally them toward restoring the world as it once was. But things quickly grow heated as Laxmi, still grieving, accuses Carol of being responsible for her grandfather's death during the earlier hive-wide collapse triggered by Carol's anger, and others challenge Carol's stance too. Koumba, ever smooth and persuasive, defends the collective, pointing out that racism has now vanished, animals have been freed from captivity, and crime no longer exists. The hive, he reminds her, doesn't kill, and all of its members live as vegetarians. So Carol grows increasingly frustrated, and her attempts to reason with them fail. When she finally loses her temper and screams at the collective, the hive's influence once again seizes control, sending everyone nearly into a trance-like state. And by the time 2 days and 16 hours have passed since the joining, Carol walks alone, racked with guilt over the people she killed over her latest outburst. The others, terrified after watching their family members convulse under the hive's influence, have all left her. All except one, and that is revealed to be Koumba. He stays behind, though not for noble reasons. With his usual arrogance, he tells Carol that he wants her approval to sleep with Zosia. Carol is disgusted at this, insisting that Zosia should be allowed to make her own decisions. And it's in this tense exchange that we get one of the most interesting things in the 2 episodes to happen, as for just a flicker of a moment, Zosia seems to show a spark of independent thought, as if she's trying to choose for herself. This brings us to the ending of episode 2, and it's here that Carol has to make a choice of her own. At first, Carol parts ways with the rest of the group, climbing back onto her original plane and choosing a seat in the economy section, a clear signal that she doesn't share their outlook. Meanwhile, Zosia boards Koumba's plane, and as the two lock eyes for a brief moment, Carol senses something significant, enough to make her change her mind. Just before takeoff, she has a change of heart and decides to join the others on their plane, reuniting with the group she had initially distanced herself from. So the second episode really deepens the characters while also giving us more insight into the collective. There are hints that the joined aren't entirely uniform and that they retain glimmers of individuality. In particular, Zosia's hesitation at the end, the way she paused before making a choice, suggests inner conflict, and that could become significant as the story moves forward. Carol's role as a disruptor is quite intriguing, as her aggressive outbursts, while destructive in the short term, could ironically be the mechanism that prevents humanity from remaining trapped in the collective. There's also an intriguing thread in there with the animals. Why did the collective release all the zoo animals, and what about the experiments with the rats at the very start? These details hint at a larger plan involved or a pattern we haven't fully grasped yet. The deaths of hundreds of millions due to the collective actions are indeed shocking, and Carol's visceral reaction underscores the human cost in a way the other survivors don't seem to feel. Speaking of the other survivors, many of them appear distracted by their own comforts or indulgences, whether that's family, romantic interests, or other pleasures. It seems to blind them to the real dangers posed by the collective. On the surface, there's no crime or violence, but that very lack of resistance could lead to the planet being vulnerable. Without conflict, humans may be too passive, potentially leaving them exposed to some larger looming threat. So this could mark the beginning of far bigger problems down the line. So what are my overall thoughts on the first 2 episodes of the show? Well, Pluribus episodes 1 and 2 make for a gripping and thought-provoking introduction to a sci-fi world that feels both vast and intimately personal. Episode 1 immediately hooks you with its blend of mystery, tension, and dark humour, opening with the eerie discovery of a repeating signal from space and the unsettling consequences that follow. The juxtaposition of high-concept science with Carol's very human grief and confusion grounds the story, making the stakes feel real and relatable. Rhea Seehorn delivers a compelling performance as Carol, capturing both her sharp wit and the raw vulnerability of someone thrust into a world where nearly everyone else has been subsumed into a hive mind. Episode 2 builds on from this foundation by expanding the scope of the narrative and introducing a fascinating ensemble of unjoined survivors, each with their own cultural backgrounds and personal dilemmas. The episode excels at balancing character development with plot advancement, using moments like Carol's confrontation with Zosia and the Bilbao meeting to explore deep philosophical questions about autonomy, morality, and what it truly means to be human. The series also impresses with its visual storytelling. From the eerie calm of the collective to the intense physicality of Carol's grief and resistance, every scene feels deliberate and atmospheric. So together, these first 2 episodes established Pluribus as a smart, emotionally resonant sci-fi thriller show, one that challenges viewers to think about the cost of harmony, the power of individual choice, and the unpredictable consequences of human emotion in a meticulously controlled world. With much questioning on the table, the introduction of the show makes it seem as though Vince Gilligan is onto another winner here, with a series that looks like it's going to be everyone's new addiction for the next few years. We'll just have to see how Vince goes about giving us the answers to the looming questions, and with that in mind, I will be going into more theories in my next video. But for now, the first 2 episodes of Pluribus end with a lot of mystery and meaningful themes to keep us intrigued about the rest of Season 1. But that was my spoiler review and explained analysis for Pluribus episodes 1 and 2. Again, I will be doing a video on my theories and predictions for episode 3, so keep a lookout for that and stay tuned to my channel for more breakdowns on the show. But to those who have already seen episode 1 and 2, what are your thoughts on all the events that went down, and what are your current theories on where this is all going? Let me know down below in the comment section. For much more videos on Vince Gilligan's Pluribus, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.